We begin the Gemara today at the beginning of Daf Chavtes Samad Aleph. Or actually, it's just two words at the bottom of Chavches Samad Beis, which is quoting from the Mishnah, the last Mishnah, where it says Iser Mitzvah Chulu. So what is this Mishnah speaking about? This Mishnah, the previous Mishnah, speaks about the halacha of Achos Zikukasai. When you have two sisters that fall for Yibum, there's a halacha of Achos Zikukasai, because they're sisters, you can't do Yibum. But here there's a machlokes. The first Tana that had in this Mishnah and the previous Mishnah held that that's only a Ism B'Derabanan. Menatayri you could still do Yibum, but B'Derabanan they were geyser, according to one opinion, the Pshat and the Gzeira is Yesh Zike, that because it's a Achos Zikukasai, we consider it to be as if one of them is your wife already, each one is your wife already, and therefore you can't do Zike for either one of them. But then the Mishnah here said, the Gemara explained, Rab Shimon disagrees. Rab Shimon says when you have two sisters that fall for Yibum, so now min ha-tayra, you can't do Yibum for them. He brought a pasuk, leisikach litzrai, which means that you can't do Yibum for them in ha-tayra. And the Gemara explained, this Mishnah is coming to explain to us Rab Shimon's opinion. So now, in continuation to Rab Shimon's opinion, the last thing that it said on the Mishnah was that if one of those sisters was a Isser Mitzvah or Isser Kedusha, one of those sisters, there was a Isser of Erva only Midarabanan, or Issa Erve Minatayra, but only a lav. So then the Mishnah said, Choltzais v'loy misyavmois. They do chalitza and not yibum. That's what the Mishnah said. So the Gemara is going to ask on this now that according to Rab Shimon, this does not fit. Issa mitzvah chulu, sagt the Gemara, but v'ha'omer Rab Shimon. But if this part of the Mishnah over here is also going according to Rab Shimon, but didn't Rab Shimon say, Shtei achoyos, that when you have two sisters, so then minatayra, loy choltzais v'loy misyavmois. Because they're sisters, there's a chayzik ukasai, then there's no chalitza and there's no yibum at all. So what's the question of the Gemara? If one of these sisters is only a erva midarabanan, but minat teire, both of these sisters are fit for yibum, so then minat teire, they should need no chalitza and no yibum whatsoever. Why is the Mishnah saying that because one of them is a erva midarabanan, therefore you have to do chalitza? Right? Presumably the pshat would be, if you would not hold like Rab Shimon, so then the pshat would be that Minatayre, really they could do Yibum. Elamai, there's a Gzeira Midarabanan. There's a Gzeira Midarabanan because of Yesh Zike. So therefore, in a case where one of them is only a Erva Midarabanan, so then I say the halacha remains the way you say always when you have two sisters that you do Chalitza, but not Yibum. That's what the Mishnah is saying, right? Choltzais v'loy misyavmos. That's only according to the Rabbanan though. What does Rab Shimon hold? Rab Shimon holds any time you have two sisters that are together, they're available for Yibum. Minat Teire, loy choltzos v'loy misyavmos. So the fact that one of them is the Erva with the Rabbanan should not change the halacha Minat Teire. Minat Teire, they still are sisters, and it should be no chalitza, no Yibum. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Over here, when it says in the Mishnah that you have to do chalitza, it's not because it's a chayzik ukasai. A chayzik ukasai, according to Rab Shimon, it doesn't need chalitza either. It's a whole different reason here. Gzeira mishum iser mitzvah, the alma. It's a gzeira that you shouldn't confuse this case where one of them, there's a iser of a erva midrabanan, to other cases where there's a iser erva midrabanan. If in this case, where one of these sisters is a iser erva midrabanan, you're not going to do any chalitza and any yibum, and the real reason why you're not doing chalitza and yibum is because they're sisters, but people might think that the reason why you didn't do not chalitza and not yibum is because the erva midrabanan alone patters you from Yibum and Chalitza. You might come then to make a mistake that in any other case where there's a Issa Erva Midrabanan, even if there's no sisters, the same halacha would apply, that just the Issa Erva Midrabanan itself patters you from Chalitza and Yibum. So therefore the Mishnah here said that at least you have to go and do Chalitza, so you'll know that you have to do the same by any other Issa Mitzvah. Frek the Gemara, if that's the reason, so then Hot Teinach Ihi. That explains why that sister, which is actually a Issa Erva Midrabanan, why for her you have to do Chalitza, so in other places where there's a Issa Erva Midrabanan, they'll also know that you have to do Chalitza. But Achaisa Ma'ikalameima. But why does the Mishnah say that both of them, that the sister as well, also has to do Chalitza? For the sister, there's no reason for this Gzeira l'chayra. Says the Gemara, no, there is a Gzeira. Gzeira Achaisa Mishum L'sa Dida. There is a Gzeira on the sister as well, not to confuse the sister that is not a Issa Erva with the sister that is a Issa Erva, that if you're going to not do Chalitza for the sister that's not a Issa Erva, you might come to think that the other sister, which is a Issa Erva Midrabanan, you also don't have to do Chalitza. And then you'll learn from here to other places where there's just the Isser Erva Midrabanan that you don't need any Chalitza at all. This word Lisa, Rashi says, is really like sort of an extra word. The word Lisa, Rashi says, means mazel. That because she's a sister of this Isser Erva, so she like has the same mazel. That we make the same gzeira, that she also needs Chalitza. Fragt the Gemara, but if that's the case, that you make a gzeira for the sister as well, but v'ha gabi erve leigazrinan. When there's an erve minat Torah, you don't make this kind of gzeira. What happens if you have two sisters? And one of them is erve minat Torah. So then what do we say? The one that's erve midrabanan, there's no yibum or chalitza at all. She's asa to you. And then the other sister, you can do either yibum or chalitza. So maybe we should make the same gezeira over there, that if for this erve, you're not doing any yibum or chalitza, you'll come to think that the other sister doesn't need any yibum or chalitza either. Why don't you make a gezeira that at least this erve should need chalitza? Says the Gemara, no, over there's no reason to make such a gzeira, because shani erve, by the case of when there's mamish issa erve over there, it's different because the migma gemiri law, that's something that everybody knows. That's a halacha that everybody knows, that when there's an erve minat Torah, the erve minat Torah, there's no chalitza and yibum for. Gemiri law inshi, people know this halacha. The kala isla, there's a rumor about this. That's clear to everybody. Nobody's going to come and learn from here to any other place to make such a kind of a mistake. Mashenke, when it comes to this halacha over here of Rab Shimon, that he says that when you get to two sisters, that the halacha is that they're considered to be like a erva, just because they're two sisters together. Over here, this is a halacha that not everybody knows. So over here, Chachamim made these gzeiras. Over here, Chachamim made a gzeira that when one of them is a issa erva midrabanan, you should still give her chalitza, so not to confuse it with another case of issa erva midrabanan. And then they extended that gzeira even to the sister. But the point is, only benegeh to this halacha of Rab Shimon, where people don't know about it, and we're talking about a issa erva midrabanan, here they made a gzeira. But when there's one of the sisters that's a issa erva minat Torah, that's something everybody knows about, and there's no gzeira. Sagt Heilige Mishneh, Shloisha Achen. You have three sisters. Shnayim nesuim shtei achoyos, and two brothers are married to two sisters. Ve'echad mufne. The third brother is not married; he's single. What happened now? Meis echad mi balei achoyos. One of these brothers passed away, and v'asa ba mufne maimer. Now this brother that was single, so he was the only yavam available to do yibum or chalitza, but instead of doing yibum or chalitza, he went ahead and did maimer. What's maimer? We had many times before. He was mekadesher or kiddushin midrabanan. For a yevama, the only thing that works minat Torah is if you actually be a relation. But what he did was, he did a kiddushin like what we do today, kiddushin. He gave her a ring. That's a kiddushin midrabanan for one sister. Now what happened? The second brother passed away. Now you have the second sister that's up for yivum. So what happens now? One sister he already did maimer for, a kedushin midrabanan. The second sister is now here waiting for yibum. Could you do yibum for any of them? What happens now? So here's the machlokes. Again, this is all based on the concept of achos zikukase. When you have sisters, you can't do yibum for either one of them. But in this case, when you already did maimer for one of them, maybe it's different. So the machlokes is Beishamai Yemrim. Beishamai say Ishtay Imay, the one that he did maimer for, that's his wife. Once he did maimer, that becomes his wife. V'halazu, and now the second sister that just fell for yibum, Teitzei Mishum Achos Isha. For that sister, for her, there's no yibum. That's a sister of his wife. Okay, so perfect. So this wife that he got married to, he could remain married to her, and the other one is totally potter. She goes out free. So most Rishonim actually say that the chiddush, the basis of what Beishamai is saying is that maimer is a kiddushin that works even in Torah. Even though constantly in the Gemara we always see that maimer regarding a yavam and yevama is only a kiddushin with the Rabbanon, Beishamai disagrees. Beishamai is saying no, ishta yimai. Maimer also has a koyach to give her a status of his wife and a kiddushin even by a yevama in Torah. So that's it. So there's no issue here. This is his wife, and the other one is the sister of his wife, so she goes free. Beis Hillel say maimer is not a full marriage really. So therefore, moitzi es ishtoi beget or bechalitza. So first of all, this wife that he married with only with maimer, since it's not a full marriage, so the issue of achos zikukase, that now she's a sister and the other sister is also up for yibum, that issue of achos zikukase will still apply. Even for this wife that he gave her maimer. And therefore he can't remain, he won't be able to finish the marriage, he won't be able to do yibum for her. So what does he have to do? He has to be maitzir, he has to divorce her with a get and with chalitza. both. Because he did maimer, he's going to have to give her a get, and he's going to have to give her chalitza, just like every single Yevama. And the Eishes Achiv, and the other sister, the second sister, is also a chaysuku kasei, b'chalitza. So for her, he has to give chalitza. Zuhisha Amru, it's regarding this case, that it was said, Oiloi al ishtoi v'oiloi al Eishes Achiv. Woe to him that on his wife, that he has to divorce his wife, because we consider his wife to now be a chais zikukasa, he can't finish off, he can't do have any relations with her, and also and also for the second sister, also he won't be able to get married to her, and he has to give her chalitza as well. So basically, Beis Hillel is saying that the maimer is only a kedushin midrabanan, so therefore minat Torah, these two sisters are still sisters that are up for yibum, and therefore it's a chais zikukasa. So both of them he can't get married to them. The Gemara starts with the last lashon, the last point it said in the Mishnah. Beis Hillel uses the term here, Zu Hisha Amru. Regarding this, it was said that it's you lose your wife, and you also lose that you can't do yibum for the second sister. So the Gemara, Zuhi, this expression of Zuhi Lemut. What is it coming to exclude? It seems like there's another case that would be similar, and it's coming to exclude that. Says the Gemara, yet Lemute Hachte Rabbi Yeshua. It's coming to exclude this case of Rabbi Yeshua. D'layavdinan kivasei. We don't do over there like what Rabbi Yeshua said. Ela ik Rabbi Gamliel, ik Rabbi Lazar. Over there we follow either Rabbi Gamliel's opinion or Rabbi Lazar's opinion, or Rabbi Yezer. What is that case talking about? So Rashi doesn't even bring it here. We'll learn this in Metz Hashem later in the Gemara, but just bekitzer, the point of that case is very, very similar to this case. Just like over here, we're talking about maimer, that for one of the sisters, you did maimer, which is a kedushin midrabanan. There, it's also talking about a case where for one of the sisters you did a kedushin midrabanan. What's another example of kedushin midrabanan, which we had already many times in the Masechta? A kedushin for a ketana. Kedushin for a ketana, which brothers can marry her off, or a mother can marry her off when the father is not alive. That's a kedushin midrabanan. And what's the halacha by the kedushin of a ketana? She could do miyun. When she becomes bas mitzvah, she can reject and remove the entire marriage. So you might think that the halacha that it said in our Mishnah regarding maimer, which is the kedushin b'derabanan, in the case of miyun, is the same thing. And Rabbi Yeshua actually says over there the same exact expression as it says here, oile al ishta and oile al chais ishta, or eshesachav, that is. But Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer disagree, because miyun is different over there by the kedushin of a ketana, where you have miyun. It's different than here. Why? Because by miyun, once she's memayin in the marriage, she uproots the whole marriage retroactively. So therefore, over there, it's not like in our case where Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel are arguing about the case of maimer. Maimer is not something you could uproot retroactively. So Mashenkin over there, by the miyun, you could uproot it retroactively. And therefore, over there, the halacha will be different. As it explains it, we'll see when we get to Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer say what you have to do over there. So the Gemara, now going back to Beis Shammai's opinion. Most of the Gemara we're going to learn today will focus on Beis Shammai's opinion regarding maimer. Amar Rabbi Lazar, so Rabbi Lazar explains, Loi teime, do not now understand and explain that maimer le Beis Shammai, that when Beis Shammai says that maimer makes it his wife, right? Beis Shammai, the lashon of the Mishnah was ishtoi imoy. With maimer it becomes his wife. So we see that according to Beis Shammai, maimer has a koyach by a Yevamos, even minat Torah. So, but nevertheless, he limits this. He says, don't say the pshat according to the Beis Shammai is that kaina kinyan gomer, that she becomes mamish like his wife, just like it is with a regular kiddushin, which would then mean the ibayala afuki. If he wants to divorce her, sagila begitte, according to Beis Shammai, it would be enough just to give her a get. Ella, rather, maimer le Beis Shammai, this that he says, that maimer by a yavam and a yavama has a koyach minat Torah. What is that koyach according to Beis Shammai? Ein a kaina. The kinyan, the effect of this maimer is only ella litchais bitzara bulvad. That now it pushes off the other sister, that usually there would be an issue of a chais ziku kasai. We consider the one that he did maimer already to be his wife enough to the extent that the other one is pushed off. That the other one now is going to be the sister of your wife, and for her there's no yivum or chalitza whatsoever. For that extent, this maimer has an effect to be deicha the other sister. But not regarding this wife itself, that if you would want to divorce her, you would just give her a get. You would still have to give her a chalitza as well. Amar Rabavin says, I can prove this to you. Afanana mitanina. We could see this also from the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek. What does it say in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek? So there it also talks about two sisters. that fall for Yibum, the case of Achayziku Kasai. And there are two brothers that have to do, that are alive, to be able to do Chalitza or Yibum for these two sisters. So what did the Mishnah there say? They're not allowed to do Yibum, only Chalitza, because it's Achayziku Kasai. Now the Mishnah there said, what happened b'di'evet if both of these brothers went ahead and got married to both of these sisters? So B'Shamai Yomrim Yekaimu. B'di'evet, they could remain married to them after the fact. So what do we see from that Mishnah? According to Beishamai, Yikaimu in only b'di'evet, they can go, if they went and did Yibum, they can remain married, but l'chatchila, there's no way how by two sisters you can go and do Yibum for them. You must do Chalitza for both of them. Says the Gemara, now let's think about this. According to Beishamai, that Maimer has a koyach that it makes a kinyan. And if you would say that it mamish makes a kinyan gomer, so if so, you have a way over here from the back door. That according to Beishamai, Maimer has a koyach to make a kinyan gomer, a full kinyan. If so, what's the issue over here when you have by a chayziku kasai? By a chayziku kasai, because it's a sister, you're not allowed to have relations with either one of them. Bia, to actually do yibum, which is bia, to have relations with them, that's not allowed. Because it's as if it's already your wife, so it's a chayziku kasai. That's the problem. But with Maimer, there's no issue. That's not something that will be a problem in a case of a chayziku kasai. So if so, ze yasa Maimer v'yikne, let one brother come ahead and do Maimer and be kinder her completely with the Maimer according to Beishamai, if you say that a mamish becomes completely like his wife. And then v'zeh yasa Maimer v'yikne, let the other one do Maimer and he'll be kinder the other wife. And now, if so, each one is kinder one of them. So now you can do Yibum just for this one, and the other one will do Yibum just for the other one. And it all starts off with Maimer. First you do Maimer, so now this becomes exclusively your wife, and the other one is the sister of your wife, so the other one is not shaykh to you anymore, can't do Yibum for you. And then the other one also does Maimer for the other one, and then the other sister is the sister of already your wife. So if you do, but Maimer is not an issue by a chayziku kasai. Only Yibum is the issue by a chayziku kasai. Maimer itself is no isser by a chayziku kasai. You can do Maimer.
There's no difference between Maimer and Bia according to Beishamai.
Well, but Bia though is the Issa Erve. A Chayziku Kasai is the offshoot of a Issa Erve. Midrabanan, it's considered to be like a Chays Ishtai, and therefore Bia is Aser. But Maimer is not Aser. So Maimer you can do. So what's the problem? So the Gemara says, Elamai. So what are you trying to prove from here? The Gemara here is going to slug up this raya, but it says, wait a minute. You try to prove that according to Beishamai, the Maimer is not kaina kinyan gomer, so much so that you would just need a get, and therefore you can't come through the back door and just do Maimer to block out the other one. But Elamai, what are you going to say? Doiche dechiye gemura. Even if I'm not going to say that the Maimer is kaina kinyan gomer. But this is for sure that according to Beishamai, once you do Maimer, it is Deicha the other sister. That's the halacha of what our Mishnah said. Once you do Maimer for one, now the other sister is considered to be Achais Ishtoi, and you can remain married to the one that you did Maimer. So that is true for sure according to Beishamai. So if so, the question on the previous Mishnah remains. Zeh Yasa Maimer, let one brother do Maimer v'yitchen, it'll push off the other sister. V'zeh Yasa Maimer, and let the other brother do Maimer on the other sister. V'yitchen, push off the other sister. Each one will do Maimer for one. So the question still remains. So the Gemara is pointing out, it doesn't matter whether the Maimer is kind of kinyan gama to the point that now you only need a get or not. But the point that Beishamai said in this Mishnah, that it's Deicha, the other sister, that's for sure true. So why don't we apply that to the previous Mishnah? What are you going to answer? Even though Maimer is allowed in a case of a chayziku kasai, but this Maimer does not have such a strong koyach. Why not? Maimer de hateire dachi, Maimer de isura loy dachi. There's a difference. In our Mishnah here, we were talking about a case where the brother that went and did Maimer, he did it beheter. At the time that he did Maimer, this was the only one that was up for Yibum. There was no other sister yet here. It wasn't a case of a chayziku kasei. So this is a Maimer where the brother doing the Maimer had an option to do Yibum. He decided to do Maimer. So that's a Maimer where you have the option to do Yibum is a stronger Maimer. So that's a kind of a Maimer that takes fully effect, and it's going to be Deicha, the other sister. But by a Maimer de Yisura, in the previous Mishnah, we're talking about when you have already two sisters here, so it's already a case of a Chayziku Kasai, you can't do Yibum, and now you do Maimer, that Maimer is not as effective. So therefore it's not going to be Deicha, the other sister, when it was already previously a Chayziku Kasai. Hachanami, so if so, says the Gemara, so your raya from that Mishnah that Beis Shammai holds that the mimer is not kind of fully, even that you would not have to give a chalitza anymore, is not a raya. Because there's the same difference. You can say Maimer, Afil Mandama, Maimer Kaina Kinyan Gomor, even if you're going to say that Beis Shammai holds that Maimer is Kaina Kinyan Gomor, and we'll see later in the Gemara, there is such an opinion according to Beis Shammai. So even if Maimer is fully Kaina Kinyan Gomor, but Maimer the Hateira Kani, that's only a Maimer which was done in a time when she was mutter to you even for Yibum, then it would be Kaina Kinyan Gomer, but the Yisura Loikani. If you did the Maimer in a time when there was already a Chayziku Kasai and then you couldn't do the Yibum, that's a weaker Maimer. So then it would not be Kaina, this Kinyan Gomer. So therefore, you don't have any Raya from the previous Mishnah. Okay, but the point here you see is an important point. The Gemara is mechalek here between Maimer the Yisura and Maimer the Teira. This is a similar concept to what we once had before, Benegea to Chalitza. There's a concept called chalitza ksheira and chalitza psula, which means a strong chalitza and a weak chalitza. And that's also when you have a case where you could do yibum, the chalitza is a very strong chalitza. And a case where you can't do yibum, and the only thing you can do is chalitza, that's called a shvacha chalitza, a apostolic chalitza, so to say. Same thing over here with the maimer. There's a maimer that teira and maimer the yisura, depending if it's a case where you have the option to do yibum or not.
It's a maimer the yisura, it's not a maimer.
But Paul, you're allowed to do the maimer. Even by a chayzik ukasi, the maimer is allowed. The word maimer de yisura does not mean that the maimer is forbidden. Just like the lashon of chalitza psula does not mean that chalitza is possible. It means it's a chalitza in a case which is weaker because you can't do yibum. Maimer de yisura means that it's usher to do yibum, and therefore even the maimer that you are allowed to do is a weaker maimer. Ravashi masna'achi. Ravashi, he learns this whole statement that we just brought before in the name of Rabbi Lazar different. That Rabbi Lazar came and said, Loi teime, do not say that Maimer leBeis Shammai dochit chiyah gemura, that when you did Maimer for one of these sisters, when you were allowed, when she was the only one up for Yibum. So now don't think that Maimer now makes it your wife, that it's doiche the other sister. When the other sister will fall for Yibum, it will be doiche her completely. And that v'tzarasa chalitza nami leibai, and now that second sister won't need no Yibum, no chalitza either. Ella rather deiche umishayirhu. It'll be deiche the other sister, but it'll still leave over some connection that at least chalitza you will have to do with the other sister. So it's not. So he's actually limiting what Beis Shammai said regarding the koyach of Maimer even more. That it's not even deiche the other sister completely. And the says Rashi points out right away that the lashon of the Mishnah doesn't say so, because the Mishnah said v'halazu, the second sister teitze. It doesn't say she needs chalitza. It just says v'alazu teitze. But the Gemara will ask that question soon. Okay, but first the Gemara again tries to bring the raya from the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek here. Says the Gemara, Omer Rab Avin, so Rab Avin said, according to this version, Afanan Ami Tanina, I'll bring you a raya from the first Mishnah of the Perek, where Beis Shammai Yoimrim Yekaimu. Beis Shammai say that when you have two sisters, you must do only chalitza for both of them. Chayziku kasai. B'di'evet, if you got married to them, they could remain married. What does this mean? Yikaimu in, only b'di'evet could you remain married to them. L'chatchila loy, but l'chatchila you must go ahead and do chalitza. There's no, you can't. There's no way for you to get married to them. Fragt the Gemara, but why not? V'sal kedaitoch maimer leBeis Shammai doiche d'chiyah gemura. If you're going to say that maimer, according to Beis Shammai, works to the extent that it's doiche the other sister completely. That now you can remain married to the one that you're married to through the maimer, and the other sister it completely pushes off. If so, ze yasa maimer v'yitche, let one brother do maimer on one sister and be doiche the other one, and v'ze yasa maimer v'yitche, and the other brother does maimer for the other sister and be doiche the other sister. So why can't we do that? So Elamai, what's the Gemara trying to prove from here? From here I see that it's not doiche the other sister completely. Okay, but the Mefarshim, Taisus and the others explain the pshat over here in the Gemara. Either way, you should still have a question on the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek. Even if you're going to say that what Rabbi Lazar says is true, that the maimer is not doiche the sister completely, and the other sister still needs chalitza. But Beis Shammai clearly said in our Mishnah that the maimer has the effect that you could remain married to this woman that you did maimer for, even though now it became a chayzik ukase, but maimer allows you to remain married to her. So the question still remains on the Mishnah at the beginning of the Perek, whether you need chalitza for the other sister or not. Maimer has the koyach that once you do maimer, you can remain married. So why in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek, according to Beis Shammai, can you not remain married to her? So Tosfos says the Gemara here understands that there's a chiluk between Maimer de Hatera and Maimer de Yisura. In our Mishnah, like the Gemara already explained before, the Maimer here was a stronger Maimer. You did the Maimer when the Yibum was still mutter to you. So over here, the Maimer has that effect that you could remain married to your wife, even if it does not have effect to pater, the other sister, from Chalitza, but at least you can remain married to your wife. What the Gemara is asking is, but if that would be the din, then in the previous Mishnah, where it speaks about a Maimer de Yisura, and that Maimer is weaker, so it should be a step lower. So then that Maimer should not only require Chalitza from the other sister, but even this woman that you're getting married to with Maimer, it should not allow you to remain married to her because it's a weaker Maimer. That's the basis of the Gemara's question here. Okay, but now the Gemara comes back to what it actually says in our Mishnah. Frag the Gemara, as I pointed out before, but ve'ela hakatani, it clearly says in our Mishnah, Beishamai oimrim, ishtai imai, the wife that you did maimer for, that's your wife, you remain married to her. V'halazu, and the second sister, teitzei mishum achayis isha. She can leave, she can go out because it's the sister of your wife, and that lashon is clear. Teitzei means she doesn't need not yibum and not chalitza. How could Rabbi Elazar say that you would need chalitza if it says clearly teitzei? Ella, so therefore the Gemara refutes this version of what Rabbi Elazar said according to Beis Shammai. Ella, we're going to have to say that when you do maimer according to Beis Shammai, you can remain married to your wife, and it's fully daiche the other sister. The other sister can go out with any chalitza whatsoever. Ella, so therefore, what's the difference between this Mishnah and the previous Mishnah? So the Gemara basically gives the same answer that it said before. Yevamos de chazia lekulu, chazia lemiktsasa. In a case where you have a Yevamos, that she's roi for everything. What's roi for everything mean? Meaning you could do Yibum, you could do Chalitza, you could do whatever you want. She's the only one when you did the Maimer for her. So she was totally mutter to you for anything. So then the Maimer takes fully effect. Chazia lemiktsasa, but if this is a case where it was a Chaisuku Kasa, you couldn't do Yibum, you could only do Chalitza for her. So Yevamos deloi chazia lekulu le chazia lemiktsasa. So then, because you can't do Yibum for her, so therefore even the Maimer does not take fully effect. It's a weaker Maimer. Okay, so basically the Gemara is saying that you can't come and make these chilukim over here, that maybe if in our case, in our Mishnah, there was a Maimer, which was a mutterdige Maimer, it was a stronger Maimer, so therefore over here the Maimer took effect stronger, and over there the Maimer takes effect less. What the Gemara is saying is, when it's a weaker Maimer, what that means is that really the Maimer does not have any effect whatsoever b'negeh to the sister. It remains a chayis zekukasei. When it's a kosher Maimer, when it's a strong Maimer, because it's a case that you were able to do Yibum, that kind of a Maimer has an effect that now she becomes your wife, and the other sister gets pushed off completely and doesn't need chalitza at all. If it's a not good Maimer, because it was already a chayis zekukasei, so then that Maimer has zero effect whatsoever. And then the other sister is still a chayisuk ukase. There's nowhere in between over here.
You could say that the Maimer is doing Yibun, but just the beginning of the process of doing Yibun, not finishing doing Yibun. Okay, here. Another time you can't even do Yibun. So correct. So
that's taka the pshat, why it's a weaker Maimer, because it's like it's not connected to the Yibum at all.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, the Gemara starts now a new inyan. B'negeh to Maimer b'chlal. This is a very fundamental Gemara. B'negeh to what is the inyan of Maimer according to Beis Shammai. As I said before, according to Beis Shammai, basically the Maimer has a koyach min ha-Torah, even by a Yevamos. But the question is exactly what the koyach is. Boy, Rave or Rabbe Rave. Question here is Maimer le Beis Shammai. Maimer according to Beis Shammai, what does it do? Nisuin Noisa, is the effect of the Maimer mamish like Nisuin, a full marriage, or Edison Noisa, or it's only like Edison. As we know, when you get to marriage, is either Edison, which is the Kedushin, which is Kesef Shtar Beer, like today you give a ring, or Nisuin, when it's fully married, when they move in together, they have relations together. So what is the koyach of Maimer when you get to a Yavam and Yevamos, according to Beis Shammai? Okay, so now this is a question over here. This question of the Gemara, as the Mefarshim point out, is not going to be a question according to Rabbi Elazar that said before that the Maimer is B'chlal not Kaina Kinyan Gomer, and even after the Maimer you still need a get and Chalitza. So if you still need a get and Chalitza, it's B'chlal not a Kinyan Gomer. The whole koyach of the Maimer is just to push off the sister, that now the sister can get married to you and you can remain married to your wife. The Gemara is asking this question according to the opinion that we'll see later in the Gemara, that Maimer is Kaina Kinyan Gomer according to Beis Shammai. According to that, the Gemara wants to know, so this Kinyan Gomer of Maimer, what does it do? Does it do like to the extent of Nisuin or only Edison? Amalei Abaye, so Abaye wants to understand first what's the relevance of this question. Lamai Hilchasa. What would be the difference if it does Nisuin or Edison? If you would say that the difference is what the usual difference is between Nisuin and Edison. What's the difference between these two stages of marriage? In both cases, you're an Eishes Ish. So what's really the difference? The difference would be Liyarisha, to whether you would inherit her if she passes away, L'tamala, or if you're a Kayin, if you can become Tamit to her as your wife, or L'hafin Edereh. And if she's your wife fully, Nisuin, then you are the one that could annul her vows alone. After Edison, you can't annul her vows alone, only together with the father. That's the halacha. The father and the husband have to do it. You can't be metama her yet. You don't yashin her yet. So that's the question. Regarding these three halachas, is she fully married to you through maimer or not? Says the Gemara, but that shouldn't be any question. Because hashta, arusa, ba'alma, regarding every time you have Edison, only arusa. Anytime you give only kedushin. So what's the halacha? Tani Rab Chia. So regarding that, Rab Chia said, Ishta Yarusa, if a wife is only an Arusa, so then lo yainen. So now, if the husband is a kayin, he doesn't have to be an ainen, which means he can't eat from karbanis. If he's a kayin, he's not allowed to be metamet to her. She's not fully married to him. V'chein, and similar, he lo yainenes. She also does not have the halacha of an ainen, which means she can't eat from kachim if she's not fully married to him. V'lo metames loy. And she also does not become tummy to him. Okay, so Rashi over here says, just a second. Rashi here says that really b'nigeya to the halacha of a kohenes, there's no isser to get tummy to anybody. So what's this halacha of loy metames? So Rashi says that it just brings this lashon derech agav, similar to the lashon that it says b'nigeya to the husband. Okay, or Rashi says maybe he goes on yontiv time. Yontiv time you're not allowed to become tummy, so it's going on the wife as well. Mesa, similar, he says weiter, the halacha is if his wife passes away, if she's only an arusa, eino yarsha, he does not yarshin her. Meis, if she passed away, hu goivek subasa, that meisu, that is, if he passed away, goivek subasa, she will collect her ksuba. Okay, so the point over here you see is in this braisa of what Rab Chia brought, that a wife that's only an arusa, there's no yerusha, there's no tumah, and he also can't be made for her nedarim alone. That he doesn't bring her actually, but we'll see soon in the Hemshech of the Gemara. By an arusa, you could do the hafaras nedarim only together with the father. So the question over here that the Gemara says is, Avad ba maimer mi boya. So when you do maimer, which is a kiddushin by a yevama, is there any svara to say that kiddushin should be stronger than any regular kiddushin for any woman, that the halacha is that it does not take effect fully like a nisuin? Why would I think that the kiddushin by a yevama should be any stronger? Adarab, if anything, it's weaker because it's only a yevama. Says the Gemara, so the question is different. Ve'ela le'inyin mesira l'chuppah. The question over here is regarding chuppah. Usually, the way it works by Kiddushin is, first is Kiddushin, then comes the second stage, which is Chuppah. The Chuppah is the Yichud room, where they have relations together. And the halacha usually is that by a woman, when you get married to her, it all has to be midaita, has to be with her consent. Can't be against her will. So now the question over here is, b'nigeya to a yuvama, after you already did maimer, do you also have to have a consent for the next stage of marriage? My nisuin, do I say that the maimer is like a nisuin? What does that mean that it's like a nisuin? That v'leboy misir l'chuppah. You will not need to have her consent b'nigeya to the second stage of marriage, that you give her over to chuppah only with her consent. Or perhaps Edison, the maimer is only an Edison, it's the first stage of marriage, u'boy misir l'chuppah. And you still need to have her consent for the second stage of the marriage, like it usually is. B'nigeya to every chasana that you have to have misir l'chuppah. That's the shayla over here. B'nigeya to the second stage of marriage. Just a second. Okay, so the Gemara says, Omalei. So again, he asks him, what kind of a question is this? Hashta. Now, what's the halacha by every yevama? Lo yavid ba maimer, if you did not yet do maimer, which is the kedushin midarabanan. Ksiv, what does the pasuk say? Yevama yava yalel bal karcha, that the relations of a yavam and a yevama is even against her will, that creates the marriage, the full marriage between them. You don't need her consent. Avad ba maimer. So now that you did this initial stage of a maimer, a kedushin midarabanan, would there be any svara that over here there would be more of a reason why you should need her that you should need her consent? Vasepis. Adarab, if anything, just because you did maimer, so you're even closer to her to being married. So you shouldn't need her consent even more. So the Gemara answers, no. Yes, there is a difference here. Sha'ani Aimer, I say that the way it works is as follows. That according to Beis Shammai, once you do Maimer for your Yevamah, Parcha mimenu zikas Yevamin, now the whole connection to this Yevamah, the nature of this connection changes. The connection that you had before as a Yevamah, that's gone, that flies away, that's not here anymore. She's not anymore your Yevamah once you did Maimer. V'chala alea zikas edison. And now there's a new kind of a connection you have to her. Now your connection to her is maybe like the connection of a regular wife, of a regular arusa. And by a regular wife, which is only after Kiddushin, now the status changes. Now you do need her consent in order to finish off the marriage. That's the shaila over here. Do I say that the whole nature of the connection changes and she becomes like a regular wife and therefore you will need her consent for the nisuin or not? Tashma, so the Gemara brings a rayat to this. There's a Mishnah in the Darim that says as follows. And here, this is the Mishnah in the Darim where it brings this whole machlekes about yesh zika or ein zika, which we learned about before. Shemeres yavam. When you have a yavama that's waiting for yibum, ben yavam echad, whether there's one brother that would do yibum, ben shnei yavamim, whether there's two brothers that are available to do yibum. So what's the halacha now? And the Mishnah in the Darim is talking about hafaras nadarim. This shemeres yavam, this woman that's waiting for yibum, who does the hafaras nadarim for her? So there are three opinions here. Rabbi Eliezer says yofer, that any of the brothers can do the hafaras nadarim for her, could annul any of her vows. Rabbi Yeshua says le'echad v'lo l'shnayim. If there was one brother that was available for yibum, that one brother could do the hafaras nadarim. But if there were two available for yibum, so then none of them could do the hafaras nadarim. Rabbi Kiva says, Lo le'echad v'lo l'shnayim. A woman waiting for yibum, and she made a neder, at that point she's still not married, and therefore even if there's one brother, it doesn't matter, he cannot do hafaras nadarim. That's the three-way machlokes here. Now, what's the pshat in this machlokes? V'havinan ba, so over there in the Gemara Nadarim, the question was asked, and this is as follows. The explanation of Rabbi Kiva's opinion is simple. Sava, he says, ein zike, that even though she's up for yibum for you, but there's no connection yet as a wife to you. And therefore, afilu l'chad, that's even if there's only one brother that's available to do yibum. So it's for sure, you're the only one that can do yibum. But nevertheless, if you didn't do yibum yet, there's no connection. She's not your wife. So therefore, you do not annul her vows. Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yeshua, that says that if there's one brother, you're the one that does the hafaras nadarim, by two you don't. That we could also explain. L'chad yesh zike. Well, there's only one brother that can do yibum. There's a connection because you're the only one that can do it. L'trei ein zike. But for two brothers, you don't have that connection. But Rabbi Eliezer, the first opinion here in the Mishnah, what did Rabbi Eliezer say? When you have two brothers, either one of them could do the hafaras nadarim. Why? So apparently Rabbi Eliezer holds that there is already a connection here, and therefore the brothers can do the hafaras nadarim. But bishlei melachad meifer. I can understand why if there's only one brother here, that one brother does the hafaras nadarim. Ela litrei. But when there are two brothers here, amai, how can you say that one of the two brothers does the hafaras nadarim? The zikah is to both of the brothers. So how could one of them do it and not the other? Maybe she's going to get married to the other brother. If the zikah is to both of the brothers, both of them should have to do the hafaras nadarim. So how does he say yofer that one of the brothers does the hafaras nadarim? That was a shaila there on Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. What did Rabbi Ami say? The case over there is that one of the brothers went ahead and did maimer. So now that brother has more of a connection to her. And we follow the opinion of Beis Shammai. The Omar, what did Beis Shammai say? Maimer kaina kinyan gomor. This is Rabbi Ami's opinion that according to Beis Shammai, Maimer is kaina kinyan gomor, not like what Rabbi Eliezer said before. Rabbi Eliezer said before it's not a kinyan gomor. Rabbi Ami says it's a kinyan gomor, and therefore that one brother now can be made for her nadarim. Okay, so that's the pshat and the Mishnah that it said over there in Masechta Nedarim. So now the Gemara comes back to explain and to answer the shaila regarding maimer, if it's nisuin oisa or edisin oisa. Says the Gemara now, if you're going to say that what maimer accomplishes is, it's mamish like a full nisuin, like a full marriage, mishum hachi mefer. So the halacha by marriages, if there's a full nisuin, then the husband alone does the afaras nedarim. But if you're going to say that according to Beis Shammai, the maimer only accomplishes an edison, the first stage of marriage, then how are you saying that because he did maimer, he does the afaras nedarim alone? But vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, naira hamoirasa, a girl that got married, but only the first stage of marriage, avia ubayla mafir nedara. The father and the husband together, because she's partially in the father's rishus, she still lives in the father's house after Edison, and she's partially married. They both together have to do that faras nedarim. So if that's the pshat and what Rabbi Eliezer said over there, how can he say that one brother that did maimer does that faras nedarim alone? Elamai, it must be that it's like a nisuin. This is a raya that it's like a full marriage, and therefore you can do that faras nedarim alone. And the Gemara says, no, Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, my Mefer, when Rabbi Eliezer said that one brother that did Maimer does the Afaras Nedarim, it means Mefer b'shutfis. It means he could do the Afaras Nedarim, but in partnership with the father. Doesn't mean necessarily that he does it mamish alone. He still has to do it in partnership with the father. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the previous opinion that we had on Amar Aleph, b'nigeya to Beis Shammai's opinion. Ul Rabbi Lazar the Amar, Rabbi Lazar that said on Amar Aleph, Maimer leBeis Shammai eina koine ela litchais litzara bulvad, that the Maimer, even according to Beis Shammai, does not create a full marriage. You would still need a get and chalitza both. And the only thing that Maimer accomplishes according to Beis Shammai is that now it blocks out the other sister, then you can remain married to your wife. So if so, the question over here is, Amai mefer b'shutfis? Why would you have to do afaras nedarim, even b'shutfis with the father, if it's not kind of b'chlal? The Maimer only accomplishes one thing. That's what Rabbi Lazar says. It accomplishes that now you can remain married to this wife, and the other sister, even though usually there's an issue of a chaysuk ukasai, she's ruled out. But so if so, why over here is Rabbi Eliezer, which goes according to the opinion of Beis Shammai, say that the maimer is kaina, that you would have to do a afaras nedarim b'shutfis together with the father? Amalach Rabbi Eliezer would answer to you and say as follows. And the Gemara here gives two answers. This that I said that maimer does not have the effect to be kaina fully. Ella litchais tzara bulvat, and the only effect that it has is that it pushes off the other sister. What I was trying to say was the lisagi lo begita, that if he wants to divorce her, it won't be enough with a get. You're going to have a get and chalitza. It's only specifically regarding that point that you'd still need chalitza that he was saying that it's not kaina kinyan gomer. Ela boy nami chalitza, you still need chalitza. But lahafen nedarel mi amrinan, regarding afaras nedarim, for that I didn't say. For that extent, regarding afaras nedarim, it is already his wife, that is. Because regarding this, she's making this neder, having in mind that this is my husband, that he's going to have control over me, whether my afaras nedarim will be accepted, my neder will be accepted or not. So for that, even Rabbi Lazar agrees that the maimer is kaina according to Beis Shammai. Okay, again, so lahafen nedarel mi amrinan. So regarding afaras nedarim, the kinyan did take effect. That's one answer. Another answer, he says, B'chlal, that mission over there in the Darim is a whole different case. Or I'll tell you, Amalach Rabbi Lazar will explain, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, mi niche. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak said that the maimer is kaina kinyan gomer, according to Beis Shammai. And what does it mean? That you have to do afaras nedarim b'shutfis with the father. But is that really a good pshat? Mikatani yafeiru. Does it say a plural term, meaning that the one that did maimer together with the father do the afaras nedarim? It doesn't say a plural term. Yafer katani. It says a singular lashon that only this one that did the maimer does the afaras nedarim, not together with the father. So why does it take effect that he has to do it fully? If you're going to say that the maimer only does edison and not nisuin, so what's taka the pshat? Why over there he does the afaras nedarim alone? So you're going to have to say that it's a whole different case over there. Even according to the opinion of Rav Nachman Yitzchak, you'll have to say that the case over there is that what happened is she already came to Bezdin and she demanded from her Yavam, give me either Yibum or Chalitza. She already was in Bezdin and she demanded this. And what happened? And then the Yavam is refusing to do either. The Yavam is refusing to release her. He ran away or whatever. So what's the halacha then? As we'll learn later in the Masechta here, after that point, when he's refusing to give her Yibum or Chalitza, the Bezdin now says that she has to get fed from his money. He has to feed her. So that he already has to take responsibility over her. Ukid Rav Pinchas mishmei de Rave. And now, based on this, we say what Rav Pinchas said in the name of Rave. The Amar Rav Pinchas mishmei de Rave kol hanederes. And the reason why? What's the reason why the husband is the one that annuls the vows of his wife? Because when a wife makes a neder, al das baila hinederes. She's making that neder only having in mind that if my husband will agree, that my neder should stand. If my husband will not agree, my neder should not stand. So over here, what we're speaking about is a Yevamos that the Bezdin already paskin, that the Yevamos has to support her. So since this is a Yevamos that is already supporting her, so she's already more like a wife in that sense. Legabe Hafaras Nedarim, the husband does the Hafaras Nedarim alone without the father. The halacha that the Hafaras Nedarim has to be done together with the father is in a case when there's only Edison and the husband is not yet supporting her. Here it's speaking about that the husband is already feeding her and supporting her. And therefore the Hafaras Nedarim is done by the father alone. Or by the husband alone, that is, not by the father. Okay.